Rational Performance Tester script supports script variables and built-in functions, and that's what we'll be talking about today. They can be used for substituting in URLs and other parts of requests. Script variables can be global, which means that they can be shared by a number of different script fragments, or they can be local to a script, which means that only one script sees it. And you can assign a variable, script variable, or you can substitute from variables. And RPT also supports built-in functions, including the current date, a random number, a sequential number, or a timestamp. And you also have the ability to format those values. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And to do that, I'm going to take the script that I recorded earlier with Google, and I'm going to show that there are test variables, and the first thing that you do is you add a variable container. It's strictly not necessary, but it just gives you some way to, not really scope, but you can define the source of the variable. So I'm going to call that my local variables, and then inside of that I'm going to add a variable declaration. And you get to name the variable. I'm going to call it user agent in this case, because I'm going to substitute the user agent header from this variable. And you get to specify whatever text you want. And I happen to have saved a user agent header from a newer version of Internet Explorer. And so I'm just going to paste that value in here. And so now that variable is assigned. The user agent variable has that value. And I said that it's only visible in this test. You could make it visible for all scripts, but that's not what I'm doing here. So now I'm going to go to the request header. I'm just going to randomly find a request header. That's for user agent. And I will modify that. I will highlight it and say substitute, and from a data source. And the data source of it, first of all, it tells me I don't find any matches, because it looks for a string that matches this header and to give you a choice. But there's no matches because I made that string up, or I copied it from another file. So now I'm going to go to my local variable and say substitute from that local variable. And when I do that, RPT says, you want me to find other places that match this string, and you can give you the option to substitute there, and I'll say yes. Found 82 matches. Those are all the user agent headers in every request that was recorded, and it shows you them here. And it also, you can scroll through them, and you can also see that there's one that's already substituted, and that's the one I did manually. And then it shows you where it was substituted from. And you can just look through all 82 of them. I'm going to uncheck the always prompt, or it would prompt me 82 times when I was doing the substitutions, and I don't want to be prompted 82 times. So there it's just substituted 82 times, and we can look at another user agent header, and we can verify that. We just go right here, and we can look at it and hover over it, and it says it was substituted from the user agent field, and it even tells you what it is. So that's substituting to a user agent header, or to a header from a variable. Okay, another possibility is you might want to substitute for a value that looks like a random number. Now, I don't know what this value is because I'm not an expert on what Google site is doing, but in your own site you would know what it is, or you could ask the developer. And so I'm going to say substitute. Well, first I'm going to say remove the substitution. I'm not sure that's strictly necessary, but it makes life easier to do that. So I'm going to go to built-in data sources. Now there are 4 built-in data sources: the current date, random number, sequential number, and a timestamp. And I'm going to pick random number. Do next. I'm going to name it so that I can tell what that variable is later when it shows up. I'm just going to call it ZX substitute because it happens to be the ampersand ZX variable. And I can specify how wide it is, and I can say whether it's 0 padded or left justified. And at the bottom here, it shows me, if I type 19999, the formatted output is padded with 0. So you can see what that data will look like when you substituted it. And so I've done the substitution. You hover over it, and it will show you that it's substituted from the random number ZX substitute. When I hit save, it asks me if I want to save these as rules, these substitutions that I made, and I'll say yes, because I might want to do this again the next time I re-record the script, or if I do another Google script. So I'm going to save it under rules, and I have an existing file with Google rules. I'm going to append this rule to that rule file. And say save, and it'll bring up the rules and shows me that I've got new rules there. And so there you go. So what I've done in this little talk is I've talked about RPT variables, built-in functions, and saving substitutions as rules.